The same guy who had the correct top 3 teams in the Big 12 preseason, it's me, is going to give you the correct prediction for the Big 12 championship game for free. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to a bonus edition of Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. Ben Criddle, ESPN 960. I'm going to join the show, and he's going to ask plenty of questions about the Big 12, and I'm going to give you the best answers to the best of my ability in this bonus episode about BYU, Texas Tech, Kalani, all of it. Why not? I thought I would just throw it out on Locked On Big 12. ESPN 960, Ben Criddle, perfect place to follow all things Big 12 sports. Ben, if you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. Let's get into it.
All seems well in Cougar country. Kalani's been extended. The staff got some pay raises. The players got some NIL. BYU's going to the Big 12 championship game. But there's some qualms as well. There's disrespect in college football as it pertains to BYU. Bear Bachmeier's not listed as a freshman of the year nationally. He got the Big 12 honor. Big 12 giving him some love there. Kalani, yes, gets the Big 12 coach of the year, but no one's recognizing him nationally. And BYU as a team is sitting outside looking into the college football playoff at number 11. What do you make of it all, Drake?
Yeah, it is the best of times. It is the worst of times. It's a wild time to be a BYU fan, to be a Big 12 fan. If you think about, Ben, where BYU comes from in terms of 2 years ago, that was a team that in football was not competitive enough to make a bowl game. And that Oklahoma State game at the end of the year was, just that the icing on the cake of we almost did it against a good team. Do you see the flashes? And then it's gone. And last year, I think the media picks BYU to finish on the back half of the Big 12, middle of the pack, maybe. And what happened was kind of the Cincinnati syndrome of what the Bearcats are going through this year of BYU last season got to win at the highest level, be a top 10 team, and the bottom falls out on you. You lose 2 games late. They're the most crucial 2 games. You can't go to the college football playoff, and you end up going to the Alamo Bowl. And that win was fun, but it wasn't a playoff victory. It's this air of we're elite. We can do it. We've proven ourselves, but we just came up short. The most dagger to the heart thing you could imagine in sports would be for BYU to do it again this year, but really have its destiny pulled away from the university and away from the football team, because at 11-1, any Power 4 team has proven to the committee they are good enough to be in the college football playoff. And so you could say, hey, if BYU just wins the games, or they win the Big 12 championship, or they, beat Texas Tech in the regular season, they would be in. But to me, it doesn't work that way. You've already proven you deserve to be a college football playoff team. We're looking at other schools and other universities like at Notre Dame who you point to their resume and say, look how good their losses are. I mean, as great as everything feels at BYU, there's still this air of what could be and why aren't the Cougars getting the respect they deserve from Bear Bachmeier, as you mentioned, not being up for freshman of the year nationally. Kalani, I'm not hearing any murmurs of him being a coach of the year nationally. For the football team being held out of the playoff because of a brand bias. And even this week in the conversations of, hey, how supported does Kalani feel by the administration? BYU got this close to losing its head football coach 3 days ago. This is one of the strangest times I think you could be a fan of any Power 4 school, and it's happening to BYU Nation.
Crazy times, no doubt about it. Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12 here on ESPN The Fan. Drake, where do you think a fair ranking would be for BYU with their resume? Where do you think they should be?
I think BYU being at 9 is not shouldn't be a foreign thought to anybody. I think BYU being one of the not the highest ranked one-loss team, but in the mix of hey, this is a BYU team that we need to show the ultimate respect to because of who they have beaten, the wins they have, their strength of schedule this year. I think it's clear they should be above Notre Dame. It's very clear to me they should still be above Alabama. Bama lost to a hapless Florida State team. Notre Dame has a couple quality losses, but they don't have the same quality wins that BYU does right now on the resume. And then I know Oklahoma went on the road and got a win at Alabama, but again, we're talking about wins and losses. What have you done for me? How many games have you won? I think BYU should squarely be at 9. I'm surprised that they're not. And honestly, you could make a case for them at 8. And if you want to go even further, their strength of schedule is better than Texas A&M. They played better opponents. A&M really they only beat the back half of the SEC schedule, if not for their Notre Dame win. I'm a bit more confused about what A&M looks like. And so I would lobby for BYU to be squarely in the top 10 in that 8-9 range. And it is, we're talking, Ben, and I know I'm getting ahead of myself a bit, but this is some Sherman Antitrust Act stuff. I mean, you leave BYU out at 11-1, and there should be, and I hope there will be, a lawsuit against this committee because there's plenty to prove that by every metric, they are better than Notre Dame and better than Alabama from a resume standpoint. I just do not understand how BYU is getting so much disrespect as a Power 4 team at 11-1.
You almost wonder, if BYU was an independent and had that same record, had the same strength of record, had the same strength of schedule, would they be ranked higher as like an independent than they would? I mean, does it matter?
I don't think so. So, Ben, here's what's so interesting about this. Before, and this is damning for myself, but I'm going to peel back the curtain a bit. 7 years ago, the average college football fan, probably myself included, would have seen Navy and BYU as pretty similar football programs. And you say, well, that's terrible. What a bad take. BYU is so much better historically than Navy. Of course they are. But the reason being, the years of independence wore on BYU's brand and how the country viewed BYU, because that was that fun game that somebody got to throw into the schedule. That was that fun game against Boise State. That was the fun game against Notre Dame. And wow, BYU upsets Texas, but you don't get respect for it because somewhere down the line, BYU loses a game or two. They're independent, and people just forget about the Cougars. They didn't have near enough dominance in the BCS era, and when they were independent, people just forgot, even after big wins, that BYU existed. Now in the Big 12, the conference, Brett Yormark, they realized national championship program with players at the top of college football over the course of the last 5 decades. Lavelle Edwards, what Kalani Sitake has built in 9 years of BYU. It is apparent. It is obvious. It is huge what BYU brings to the Big 12 conference. But the average college football fan, for some reason, their brand bias against BYU, their brand bias, and Ben, to some extent, which I think is a byproduct of why we keep hearing these anti-religious chants at these universities. They just think, oh, that's that crazy religious school. We can walk all over them. We don't have to factor them in. We don't have to care about them because we think they're different. It is a travesty what's happening to BYU. It is brand bias at its core. And I think that's what it's chalked up to. Years of independence that if this was Kansas State, they're in. If this was Iowa State, they're in. For some reason, BYU in year 3 being in a power conference, being extremely good, scares college football. They don't understand it. They don't know what to do with it. And it is so infuriating to see the way that BYU is being treated.
Drake, what's your prognostication for this BYU Texas Tech matchup? Let me give you a little bit of a preface here. My guy, Greg Wrubell, a man of metrics, the voice of the Cougars, said this. Yeah. This is what he said, okay? He said, College Football Playoff Committee is using the nature of the BYU's loss 29-7 in Lubbock, right, as a reason to keep them out and exclude them. Even though this is the number 4 team in the country, they are first in rushing defense, third in scoring defense, 6th in total defense. A closer look inside the numbers from November 8th shows many interesting things. So BYU had negative yardage on 2 of 12 drives. Texas Tech had negative yardage on 4 of 13 drives. BYU scored 1 touchdown on 12 possessions. Tech scored 2 touchdowns on 13 possessions. BYU punted 6 times. Tech punted 5 times. BYU's average yards per play, 3.9 versus Tech's 4.9. BYU had more sacks, 4-1, had more time of possession, 35 to 29, 25. BYU had 14 first downs. Tech had 17 first down. Tech's points, first downs, and yardage totals against BYU were the lowest in any of their 11 wins, and it was the lowest scoring point win total in their margin of victory. So what all that being said, like what's going to change in Arlington, do you think?
That all sounds like Greg Wrubell's the voice of the Cougars. That's what that's what that sounds like. Look, you convince yourself, and I'm going to shoot you straight, Ben. I think if you're Brett Yormark, you convince yourself that BYU is going to win. If you're the BYU fan base, you hope for that. And the reason the conference does too is because they want to get multiple teams into the college football playoff. The metric that I've looked at a lot is Texas Tech just not being so their EPA. I love EPA. And I only recently learned a few weeks ago that a BYU alumni created this EPA metric. So it's efficiency. And Texas Tech's number 53 throwing the football, number 107 running the football. And now, Ben, you would say, how could Texas Tech with Cameron Dickey, Jacoby Williams be 100th at running the football efficiency-wise? Here's why. You ready for this? It's my favorite number to give for this game. I've given it 17 times on my show this week. Texas Tech ran the ball 43 times, 149 yards. Cameron Dickey's longest carry was 33 yards. Jacoby Williams' longest carry was 43 yards. Half of Texas Tech's rushing yardage came on 2 plays. The other half came on 41 plays. That shows me that Texas Tech, aside from the chunk play, was fallible offensively against BYU. And for the Cougars, the lights were just too bright. Going into Lubbock, it was just too much for Bear Bachmeier and company to handle, even though Bear was only sacked once and Baron Morton was sacked 4 times. If you limit the chunk play, you limit the big play, it was like those Tech scoring drives just had one play of 26 yards somewhere in there, and that was the backbreaker for BYU. Every other play was 4 or 5 yards. That's where I think BYU can win this game. Is not everybody's like, oh, well, if you turn them over and the ball bounces the right way or the ball bounces the wrong way. No, I think you limit the Tech chunk plays, and BYU is within a score or 2.
Baylor.
Hey, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is exactly where I go for this Big 12 championship game to say, look, I do think Texas Tech's going to win, but by 14 points, that's a good chunk. They did it the first time, but the ball bounces the other way once, twice. 14 is a lot. So I'm going to go to FanDuel. I'm going to go plus 14 for BYU. Texas Tech wins by 7 or 10 or 3, but BYU covers. And with the NFL being here as well, the Sundays move fast. The Saturdays are still moving fast, and FanDuel makes it so exciting. Live spreads, money lines, and they all adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. Or your prayer props if you're a BYU fan. You can bet next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more if you want to be the right and in the right. Right now, FanDuel.com. Place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. FanDuel is the exact place to go right now. FanDuel, you can play right now.
Yes, indeed. BYU, a 12.5-point dog at worst. You know, for BYU fans at least, do you think they cover? Do you think BYU covers in this game in Arlington?
Ben, I think BYU wins.
Wow.
I do.
Wow.
I think BYU wins a football game. And this, the biggest, so also wild stat, BYU had more time of possession against Texas Tech the first time around. The reason I have decided, it took me a long time to get to this, because I originally was like, Texas Tech by 3, Texas Tech by 6, maybe by 10 if things go odd. There is a respect, a reverence, and understanding on the Tech side for Joey McGuire. He has said it this week that BYU deserves to be a college football playoff team. And Jacob Rodriguez, these guys are gamers. David Bailey, they don't care. They want a Big 12 championship. They're not going to lose out of pity. But on one side of the football field this Saturday, it is do or die. It is a playoff game. BYU must win. This is their first playoff game to get into the bracket. For Texas Tech, the worst that happens if they lose is they get to host a home game in the college football playoff. As much as BYU has to play for, Texas Tech does not necessarily. Now, again, these are gamers. I'm not saying Texas Tech is going to play a bad football game on purpose or give a charity to BYU. I think they're going to fight as hard as they fought all year. They want their first Big 12 championship game win ever. They certainly do. But for BYU, this is to keep the season alive, to keep a shot at a national championship alive when that is, there's no more, hey, Aaron Roderick, let's run as many draw plays as possible. Let's go, hey, what about speed option? But no, this is the kitchen sink is out there. And it either leads to BYU turning the ball over 5 times and losing by 45, or the Cougars pulling off a win. I said on my show this week, this is not Boise State beating Oklahoma. It's not that aggressive of a format for BYU to win this game. But at some level, BYU has to treat it like that. You have to treat it as, we're going to run the hook and ladders. We're going to run the plays they haven't seen before. It all boils down to this. Aaron Roderick has to get a little fancier than usual because it didn't work just trying to run the ball up the middle in game 1. And for Jay Hill, you punish Texas Tech, especially in the red zone. Bend, don't break, force them into 5 field goals. And look, Ben, I think if Texas Tech kicks 5 field goals in this game, BYU is the winner. And Tech had 5 field goals in that first game. It's the red zone defense of BYU that was so good. I still have confidence in them. Jay Hill he was perfect last time against the Red Raiders. Here's where Aaron Roderick has to step up. Kalani Sitake staying, the pomp, the circumstance, the storylines. BYU wins this game.
Drake Toll here on ESPN The Fan. BYU's healthier than they've ever been, it seems, this season. At least to start the season. They're going back to maybe where they were at the start of the season. How healthy is Texas Tech right now leading up to the Big 12 championship game? Is there any competitive advantages there?
Yeah, I really have no worries about the depth chart of either of these teams and their health status. We obviously Texas Tech lost one of its best defensive linemen in the middle of the campaign and never really skipped the beat. And so I have no qualms with how these two teams will line up based on the depth charts that they reported to the Big 12 this week. If Baron Morton goes down, obviously it's much different. But for the sake of the Big 12 conference and also just being a good, normal human being, I hope to goodness that Baron Morton stays healthy this entire game and gives the Big 12 a chance to win a national championship come playoff time. That's really the only concern injury-wise, is just knowing Baron Morton probably still isn't at 100%. But if he goes, he's given and the stats aren't necessarily comparable, and this is really just more of a toughness category. Max Duggan, when he willed TCU to that college football playoff, just beaten up the entire year. That's what Baron Morton's done, because he understands that a championship at the highest level is on the line, a national championship. So I think Baron Morton's health is something to monitor. Outside of that, Texas Tech, I don't foresee a major gap due to injury where BYU can overtake Texas Tech.
If BYU wins, where's their ranking? What's the fallout from this? Does Texas Tech get bounced out of the top 10? Give me your prognostications.
Yeah, I think if BYU wins, here's what we learned about the College Football Playoff Committee this year and the way that the selection committee has worked. They like to build in these safeguards. They like to build in like, Utah lost to BYU, so they're always going to be a spot or two behind them. What's going to happen is BYU is going to jump Texas Tech. This is the same way we saw last season a school like Clemson, who had a much better resume and record, jump SMU after they beat them in the ACC championship. You say, wow, why would they have to drop that far? Well, it's because the committee loves the head-to-head when they happen late in the season. You're seeing that with Oklahoma and Alabama right now as well, even though Oklahoma's not playing great football. I watched a lot of the LSU game. So, Ben, what I think's going to happen is the committee is going to drop Texas Tech to 8. They'll move them from 4 to 8, propelling BYU from 11 to 7. I do not foresee BYU climbs to 9 and Texas Tech drops all the way to 10. They can't drop. You cannot be penalized 6 spots for losing a game we didn't ask you to play. We can't move you behind Oregon, who did not play, by 6 spots. So that's where I foresee the Big 12 looking at the end of this. And that's a dream scenario, BYU and Tech both getting home games. But I foresee it being Texas Tech at that 7 spot, BYU in the 8 hole. Flip that. BYU 7, Texas Tech 8.
Interesting. I like the take. I like where you're heading with this. As far as the teams that is Notre Dame the biggest qualm here? We've seen Brett Yormark. We've seen Joey McGuire. We've seen others attack openly and blatantly the Notre Dame Fighting Irish right now. Is that the team that you have the biggest issue with that's currently in the top 10?
I think so, and it should be. You're asking wholeheartedly, what have you done for me lately to Notre Dame? And what they have done for you lately is certainly win, but against who? That it is a problem with how the whole thing is. And again, you're right. Joey McGuire's alluded to this, that Notre Dame can sit where they sit right now and just walk their way into the playoff. Like, they played the bottom teams from the Power Four, and they've played some really struggling, middling, American Conference teams. I just don't see how the committee. I mean, look, Ben, if they played Texas A&M and Miami the last 2 games of the season, and they lost both of those, they were 10-2, they'd be out of the playoff. And you say, of course they'd be out of the playoff. Okay, well then why them losing the first 2 games to A&M and Miami? Why did they get in the playoff when they lost the first? They still lost those 2 games. It shouldn't matter when the games are played. And unless there's a massive injury, unless there's something that occurs, you say, okay, Notre Dame got so-and-so back and they're way healthier, they're way better. They're not. They're the same team they were when they lost to A&M. They're the same team they were when they lost to Miami. Miami's behind them. I think BYU should squarely be above Notre Dame. I get it. The gold helmet means a lot more for the pockets, but it's not right. It's not right what's happening in college football.
Drake Toll, best way to support you, what you do, how you do it, for all of our listeners tuning in today.
Yep, at Locked On Big 12, at LO Big 12, wherever you find your podcasts, and on YouTube at Drake C. Toll on Twitter. And then December 29th, luckily, it doesn't interfere with your show, Ben, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern on Westwood One and the Westwood One Sports app. We'll bring you a ton of BYU coverage every morning, wherever you get your sports.
I love that. So give me a breakdown of the new show, the new foray into Westwood One affiliation. What do we got there?
Yeah, Westwood One is moving to 24/7 radio, and they've established the network. The first host that they've named on the Westwood One side is yours truly. So we're moving forward with Westwood One, which is, in my mind, this Oxford University of sports. It's the Super Bowl, it's the Final Four. So I have the opportunity now to go 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern, as I said, on the Westwood One app, on Sirius, on a ton of stations, FM, AM across the country that we're going to unveil and release here soon. And then I'll get you to work. Jim Rome will get you home. It's gonna be a blast. That's for sure.
That's fantastic. Great news. Congratulations. Well deserved. The first time I met you, the first time I interacted with you, I said, this man has talent. This man has pomp. This man has circumstance. This man has pizzazz, vigor, and vim, and a wordsmith unlike any other. You were going places. I sensed it. I knew it. Congratulations. This is only the beginning, my friend.
You're right, Ben, and I couldn't have done it without you. These reps are invaluable, and I've gotten to make so many connections because of you, because of your show, because of BYU fans, and I love talking Big 12 football. I can assure you, for the first time in a little bit, there's going to be a national show that is handled through a lens of fairness that appreciates the likes of the Big 12 and BYU. Love it.
My guy, Drake Toll, congratulations. We'll catch up again. Are you heading out to Arlington or no?
Ben, people keep telling me I'm a saint. They keep telling me, man, that guy's a good dude. He's a good person. I'm like, no, don't give me too many flowers, but maybe they're right. I'm going to a wedding this weekend, Ben. A wedding.
What are you, LDS now, Drake? Come on now.
Yeah. They're both 20. Yeah, they are BYU students. No, it's a joke.
My guy, well, hey, enjoy the wedding, eat, drink, be merry, and celebrate the wedding. Sarah will celebrate the marriage. It's what brings us together today, as they say in Princess Bride. Thanks so much. Love and appreciate you, man. Thanks for hopping on.
No doubt, Ben. Cougar Tails on me next time. See ya.
Let's go. Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12.
Hey, today's show is brought to you by Aura Frames. Look, it is the number one gift. Last year for Christmas, I gave my grandma an Aura frame. She loved it. It was her favorite thing. She could sit there and just bloop, bloop, new picture. Wherever I'm going, wherever I'm traveling, I live 2,000 miles away, and it didn't matter. Her Aura frame was sitting right there with all kinds of pictures of me and the family and everybody else that we love and care for. You can go right now and give the best Christmas gift possible, AURA Frames. Aura isn't your average picture frame. You could preload, the frame with photos before gifting it, so when they plug it in, the memories are already there, especially grandparents. Endless photos, endless uploads of pictures, and 30-second videos to the Aura app. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter. AURAFrames.com, promo code COLLEGE. Use my promo code COLLEGE at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. Support this show at auraframes.com. College is your promo code, Aura Frames.
Here is how BYU gets it done. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 is here to discuss the biggest game in the history of BYU football. Okay, that might be overstating things a little. But in the modern era, Drake, it's very true because they've got a chance to win, and the committee can't keep them out of the playoff if they win this game. I mean, well, I don't know. They could. Like James Madison wins, Virginia wins, Tulane wins, and they're just, the committee's like, well, we just feel like James Madison's a really strong team.
Why are you like this? You should work at the Salt Lake Trib. You would fit in right with them with their BYU coverage. This is
I just
gross and negligent.
First of all, would like to make it abundantly clear that what is happening to BYU is horrible. Sometimes you laugh about things that are horrible to try and better cope with them. You know what I mean? That's where I'm at with that
BYU
line.
loses tens of millions of dollars by not making the playoff as 11. It's funny. I get it. It's funny. Come on.
Anyway, how did they win the game, Drake?
Well, they limit the chunk plays. And that is something where you can be of the mind, as most average ball knowers are. By the way, talking about average ball knowers, you didn't even lead the show today with BYU and Texas Tech. We're talking coaching rumors?
Well, I had a plan. And then a very reliable source tipped me off that Matt Campbell was going to be a target at Penn State. And then it was reported by some other sources, and I saw, that's where we got to go.
You had concepts of a plan, and then you went.
I did have concepts of a plan. I was on my radar. And then I saw the national reports. I'm like, here we go, Jim. Here we go.
And so you buried BYU and Texas Tech to your second segment on
Let's not call it burying. This is a very widely listened to podcast. I think my average listenership is very high.
It's good enough. Someday it'll be Locked On Big 12, but it's just semantics here. Okay, let me take your question, and I'm happy to answer it in the chunk play thing. I'll explain. But let me answer your question with another question. Do you think there is any world, where Spencer McLaughlin sees BYU actually winning this game?
I don't think BYU fans would want me to say that on the air if I did see that scenario.
So this is not going to take a Herculean effort for BYU to win. It's not going to be the biggest upset, most impossible. How did it happen? Oh my goodness! You blew me away. This season alone, like Washington State and Oregon State flipped, kind of a blowout score, and that's niche, no doubt. But it's college football at the same time. As little as everyone talked about Washington State, Oregon State, there's the same way that BYU can flip the script here against Texas Tech and just say, hey, look, you didn't care about that game. No one watched that game, but this happens. Like, teams lose games by a wide margin, but then come back and say, hey, we didn't turn the ball over 3 times the second time around, and we didn't allow the chunk plays, and we ended up winning. I think BYU is much closer than the 29-7 score would indicate to Texas Tech. Now, a big piece of this, Spencer, this is the 18th time I've mentioned this on a show this week. I'll continue to. Cameron Dickey, in the first game these two teams played, 33 yards was his longest carry. Jacoby Williams, 43 yards, his longest carry. That would add up to 76 yards. Mm-hmm. Texas Tech had in total 149 yards. So half of their yardage came on 2 carries. The other half came on 41 carries. Texas Tech kicked 5 field goals. Their red zone offense was not good against BYU's defense. The BYU defense, 4 sacks against Baron Morton. Now, the reason I'm giving you all the numbers that favor BYU here, twofold. Number one, I do think BYU can win this game. I can give you a million reasons. Texas Tech will just do what they've been doing and take care of business. But I'm trying to justify how BYU can stay in this. 2, the reason I'm justifying that is the Big 12 Conference, Brett Yormark, his office, are all rooting clearly for BYU. They want 2 playoff teams. And it's not just, it would look good. We're talking millions of dollars that are given by the committee, the revenue stream from TV that's just given directly to teams that make it, and also the exposure for the league, the PR for the league that is just millions tenfold in marketing. The Big 12 wants BYU to win, plain and simple, and Texas Tech will still get in. Zero doubt about that. I think
zero doubt with this committee. You're placing zero doubt because look, I would have zero. If I were a committee of one, there would be a 0% chance they wouldn't get in. But 10-2 with a loss to BYU, who
11.
they haven't liked.
11-2
with a loss to BYU, who they haven't liked all year. And Arizona State. I think it's more likely than not Texas Tech is in. Let's make that clear. You said 0% chance.
Zero.
I cannot predict what this committee is going to do because they're. I've heard it get framed like this before, and I think it's correct. They are do what they want and rationalize later. That's what this committee is.
3 weeks in, the guy in charge of the committee got deposed. So this is already a pretty messed up committee. But Spencer, let's understand this. We are looking at a very clear case against the Sherman Antitrust Act. And you're like, why would they bring up the Sherman Antitrust? BYU, Texas Tech, the Big 12. BYU has already sued college football for a lack of representation of the BCS era. Like, BYU is kind of the reason we got the whole BCS thing because they sued the NCAA. We are looking at the exact same thing. If you say, hey, wait a second, that's weird. Ole Miss didn't play a game and they got to go, but Texas Tech got left out. That's a very easy lawsuit to win, and it would once again reshape how we do college football postseason. People forget we did the BCS because of BYU and them suing the entire format. We're looking at that again. If you leave Texas Tech out, they won't do it.
The committee wants so badly for BYU to lose this football game.
Absolutely.
Every single member. I saw Kirk Herbstreit online getting ripped for saying that, and I was like, he's pointing out what is plainly true. I don't think that Kirk Herbstreit is saying that's what he wants to have happen. He's saying that's what the committee wants, and it 1,000% is. They do not want to have them still because they love Notre Dame, because Notre Dame passes the eye test. By the way, what about Miami doesn't pass an eye test? I don't know. Over the last several weeks, they
lost to Notre Dame, so that's what.
Wait. Backwards. Freaky Friday. That was other way around. Yeah, that's not right. Here's another one. Let me throw this out there. Let's say BYU fails to win the football game. Do they just sit there at 11? Do they stay put? Do they not move? Is BYU's sole divine purpose in life in the eyes of the committee to be the buffer between Miami and Notre Dame?
Hey,
or is BYU going to drop and then the head-to-head will have to come into play and Miami will get into the playoff? Because I think there's a non-zero chance that happens.
Look, I've asked Jake Hatch about this. I've asked Gary Patterson about this. Now Spencer McLaughlin. BYU, strength of record, number 6. Notre Dame, number 13. Strength of schedule, BYU, 35. Notre Dame, 42. Best win, BYU, number 15. Notre Dame versus number 17. Worst loss, BYU, number 5. Notre Dame, number 12. 10-2 versus 11-1. Why is Notre Dame above BYU? Their resume is not better. Not even close.
Let me throw up my top 25 rankings for the week, Drake. Are you ready for this? For those watching on YouTube? Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. Is that BYU at 9? Yeah, it is. Where's Notre Dame at 12? Why? For all the reasons you just listed. So to the question that you just asked, I don't know.
No.
I do not know the answer to that question.
It is what is happening right now. It's bad for the sport is putting it lightly. We are telling you there are 2 conferences. That's going to be a massive offseason topic. We are telling America there are 2 conferences in college football. If you aren't in those 2, you better go unblemished, or we're probably not going to care.
Yeah, it's not a great place. It's not the sort of decision making I would like to govern the greatest sport on planet Earth. I tell you what, it's going to rationalize playoff expansion. That's what they're going to do.
You and I have not had this conversation yet, and I would love to hear your thoughts. I don't mean to commandeer, but I think that Vanderbilt at 14, 15, 16 could compete with Texas A&M. Neutral site, I think that's a fun game. A good game where Vanderbilt wins 4 out of 10 times. To me, if we go to 16 in today's era, now in 2011, it doesn't make sense to go to 16. In today's era, 16, I think you can still play some competitive games, namely if we're not just adding 3 different North Texases in there. And I want North Texas to have a shot, but 1 or 2 of those group of 5 schools, group of 6 schools, I think that the number 16 team, if they are USC or any given year a Vanderbilt, could compete at the very least.
Here's the thing, because I've talked about this before in the context of the gap between the top of the sport and those that are trying to knock them off is not as big as it used to be. On that, we agree. Where I don't agree is that's a justification to expand the playoff, because now you are further reducing the meaning of the actual games that get played during the season, and we're starting to feel like the NFL. Can anyone tell me a major season-defining singular outcome in the NFL so far this year? Can anybody give me one?
Not yet, but also, Spencer.
Not yet is the only
Spencer,
answer I needed to hear.
Those ratings are still better than college football.
Yeah,
people
but
are
that's
still watching the NFL. They're watching it higher.
That's not money that comes in my direction. I do not care. I want the sport to be the best that it can possibly be.
You just told me when BYU got a double-digit win at Cincinnati, who's been in the top 25 half this season and didn't even move a smidge, that the regular season already doesn't matter that much.
Well, only for look. Make me a one-man committee, and this will all go
You
away.
and Josh Pate, huh?
Hey, I think the two of us could accomplish a great many things for the sport. I think we could do a lot of He can work on playoff selection. I'll work on calendar. Okay, those will be our delegated tasks, respectively, and I think that would result in a better sport. I think Texas Tech wins 28-20. By the way,
I'm going to go with BYU. I think BYU wins 27-23. Oh, I like that too. BYU wins. Yeah.
Is that a Big 12 championship scoregami right there? Is that what we've got?
There haven't even been that many Big 12 championship games. There's like
it probably is a scoregami.
Almost no matter what they do, it'll be a scoregami.
Could very well be. Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12. What about the rest of the conference championship games? I will attempt to tell you how those are going to go. We won't know until the weekend whether or not I actually succeed.